I'm going to introduce you to spoon theory. And this concept isn't specific to children with sensory differences, but it is really helpful for our children. And this is something I'll come back to throughout the training, and it's a really helpful concept for parents to be able to discuss with teachers at school. So the idea is that, let's say we all have 10 spoons a day. So I've got 10 spoons here. And let's start with maybe the perfect child with the perfect life that basically doesn't exist, but let's just have a think. So this child wakes up with all 10 spoons. They've had a fantastic night's sleep. They get up, get dressed, no problems, everything's fine. They love school, so they go to school happily. And this child is starting their school day with all 10 spoons. Now, let's say the second lesson is maths, and this child doesn't really like maths. So this perfect child has lost a spoon. But lucky them, they're going into break time with 9 spoons left. Everything goes well, but at lunchtime, let's say this child has a bit of a fallout with a friend, so they lose another spoon. So this child is down to 8 spoons. School can be quite challenging for all children, so let's say by the time this child leaves school, they've lost another spoon. They've had a tiring day and they've worked hard. But this child is leaving school with 7 spoons. And when you leave school with 7 spoons, this is when you can manage after school club. You can sit nicely at the dinner table and have a chat with your parents about how school was. You know, you can have a friend round. When you have these spoons left, you can do the things you want and need to do. And you're not having a meltdown when you get home because you've got the energy, the spoons left. Now, let's talk about what's more realistic and what our children are perhaps experiencing. So they're still starting with 10 spoons, but let's say for this particular child with some sensory difficulties, they're waking up and they're dreading the thought of school. School is overwhelming for them, and the very thought of school is taking a spoon away from them. Getting breakfast, let's say, despite the parent trying their absolute hardest, and usually their favourite cereal has 10 boxes spare in the cupboard, but on this one occasion it's ran out and they haven't got the breakfast that they have every morning. Absolute disaster, definitely a spoon gone. This child has woken up, they've not had the best night's sleep, they've got lots of restless energy, and there's no time before school to maybe bounce on the trampoline or have a run round that they really need. So again, a spoon left. So this child, before the school day has even started, they've only got 7 spoons. Going into school, let's say, is a complete nightmare. It's noisy. This child has tactile sensitivity. So people brushing up against them on the way into class is really stressful. So that they've lost 2 spoons, even just getting into class. The first lessons, maths, maybe this child likes maths, but even so, they're being asked to sit still. And that is difficult and challenging for them, and it's taken a spoon. So you can see by the time we've got to morning break, this child has only got 4 spoons left. Lunchtime is noisy and busy and stressful for them. They've lost a spoon. They're having difficulty with their social interactions. That's another spoon gone. You know, there's so many things that can happen this school day, and their spoons are just eaten up. And they're perhaps leaving school with either just 1 spoon left or often with no spoons left at all. And a child with no spoons left or very little spoons left is a child that is going to get out of school and have a meltdown. Once they reach that safety and comfort of their parents, they know they're safe, they can be themselves, and they've got no spoons left, that is when they're going to have a meltdown. There is certainly no capacity left in their body to do something like sit and have dinner and chat to the family. Even something that might seem a tiny request You might be saying that you've made your child a drink. You might say to them, can you come to the kitchen and get it? And whoa, maybe that's a meltdown. That feels like a huge demand because they have no spoons left. And there's absolutely no chance of doing anything like cubs or brownies. That's having a friend round. There's no spoons. They just can't do it. Now, it's called spoon theory because the person that developed it chose to use spoons as a unit of measurement. But if you want to explain this to your child, you can use any unit of measurement. It could be Minecraft blocks. It could be 10 of anything. And in the downloads, there's going to be 2 different sheet options, one for older children, one for younger children, if you think you're able to sit down and discuss this with your child. Because I think it's a really helpful concept for children understanding themselves. Because often our children can think, almost like there's something wrong with them. Why can't they cope with everything that maybe their friend's coping with? And like I said at the beginning, this is a really important concept to discuss with schools. So I find it can be helpful to arrange a meeting with school and to talk about the whole school day, discuss what takes spoons away from the child, and then prioritise. So some things are worth a spoon and some things aren't. And it's different for each child. So, for example, something like assembly. Let's say assembly takes away a spoon for your child. So for one child, that's just not worth it. They're better saving the spoon and spending it on something else. But for another child, there could be a reason, there could be a target they're working on, or a reason why going to assembly is quite important. And you would say, okay, we're going to keep that in, and we're going to spend a spoon on it, but something else has to give. So maybe they're going to have lunch in a quiet room rather than with everyone else. Whereas for another child, we might decide assembly's not worth it. They should do something else instead. They should have quiet reading, low stimuli time. And actually it's more important for this other child to try and have lunch with some friends. So it's hopefully a really helpful concept to start that conversation with school. And often parents will say to me that schools say everything is fine. And if this is the case, it's really important you explain to school that they are not fine when they get home, and that means they are not fine when they're at school. If a child is having a really hard time all evening, if they're having a massive meltdown when they leave school, then something is not right at school. They are using up too many spoons, and really that's not fair. It's not fair for school to use up 10 spoons. You need some spoons left for the evening, not just you, the child needs some spoons left for the evening. So yeah, it's speaking to school and agreeing what's got to give and then what can stay.